On the Hooks Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
And thanks for joining us. Phoenix will elect a new mayor on March 12th. Early voting began February 13th. Two former city council members, both Democrats, will face each other in a runoff. Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela. Daniel Valenzuela is our guest on Newsmaker Saturday because Kate Gallego, after repeated attempts, she's been on this program before, she would not appear on the program. Do you have, and our policy here is, if a candidate won't show, we're not going to deny the other candidate a voice just because one person doesn't show.
And I appreciate that. You know, there are 1.6 million people who live in this city. This is the most impactful seat in politics in the daily lives of Phoenicians, and we have to get it right. And you know, John, look, our mayor needs to be a coalition builder and a problem solver, and someone who realizes the job of mayor is to work for every person in this city.
What's your biggest disagreement with Kate Gallego in terms of if voters are trying to size you up, where do you fall that's completely opposite? Because your voting records are actually very similar on the council.
Well, a few things. Again, the mayor, I realize the mayor must be a coalition builder and a problem solver. This is a nonpartisan race. It needs to be someone who is willing to check the party labels and actually get something done. And the other difference is it does go on the track record. I've dedicated my life to keeping people safe, not just as a first responder, but as a policymaker.
Right, you're a Glendale firefighter. Would you resign that position if you're elected mayor?
I will be the full-time mayor of this city. I don't have enough time to resign, but that announcement was made back in October. The city deserves a full-time mayor. I'll be the full-time mayor.
Okay, let's start with the arena. This is one issue that you and Kate Gallego really do disagree on. $150 million for arena renovations from the Sports Facilities Fund. The Suns pay only $80 million. So it seems to be a weird kind of relationship in terms of the dollars, kind of a 2-to-1. The taxpayers are paying, Suns paying $80 million. You said we need to do this. Why?
We need to do this because, again, this is a city-owned arena. Now, my opponent would have taxpayers think that we are subsidizing a sports team or giving this money to a billionaire owner. Several news agencies have taken this on. This is a misleading position. In fact, there's $500,000 right now attacking me on a misleading position.
We see it every night. And what's the deal with that? You say that you would not have voted for this originally.
Well, I don't believe local government. I don't think taxpayers, any taxpayers, believe that we should be footing the bill for a local sports team or a sports team or creating an arena situation or a stadium situation. That said, more than 25 years ago, the city council then decided that we would have this arena in downtown Phoenix. We all remember what downtown looked like before this arena. There's an overall economic impact of more than $180 million annually, 1,100 jobs tied to more than 50 companies. Essentially what I'm saying is this is a city-owned arena. The Sports Facilities Fund that you talked about, that's funds that are derived from essentially tourists.
Rental car tax, hotel tax.
Correct. And so for the purposes of keeping this city-owned asset going. So a couple of things here. You know, my opponent says that she opposed using this Sports Facilities Fund for its intended use, which, by the way, that's one of the things that's wrong with government, taxing for one purpose and doing whatever else you want to do with it. Two, what is being missed, what I have not heard, what no one has heard, is if you don't renovate this city-owned asset that is bringing so much into downtown Phoenix, then what's the plan? Because, you know, we also have an arena that I can point to, that we can all point to here in Phoenix. Think of Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Think of having that arena in downtown Phoenix. What happens with the more than $180 million of economic impact, the 1,100 jobs and so on?
Let's move on to, I wanted to bring this up because New York just went through this with Amazon. The $3 billion that New York was going to put into this to bring Amazon there in tax breaks resulted in this, what you see here, a lot of protest. Where's the money going? But in return, they gave up 25,000 good-paying jobs. They lost that. Your view on tax breaks to bring business to the city?
It is a mistake. As someone who has led economic development for our city for several years, it is a mistake when government leads the conversation with tax break or how much the tax break should be. My focus has been heavily on believing in the entrepreneur, selling our talent. You know, we want to be the best when it comes to attracting, retaining, and most importantly,
but don't
developing
you need to
talent.
incentivize these companies? I mean, it's a bidding war. There were 20 cities in the mix for this.
For this company, clearly, if you want to get in the running, you're going to have that conversation because Amazon appears.
Are there
Amazon's
times when you need to do it?
And do that. Of the thousands of developments that we have seen in Phoenix over the years, only about 16 of them are on a tax break. What I will tell you is, as a council member, I created something called Code Phoenix, which allows every kid in Phoenix to learn coding and robotics. Did it for free without raising a tax by bringing the private sector along, which helps us land those types of companies in the future.
Let me ask you about police. The city is trying like heck to hire 400 new police officers. First of all, it strikes me that we're a very safe city, despite what you see on the nightly news. Do we need that many officers?
We do, John. And I'll tell you, ask someone again who has taken an oath and who has dedicated my life to keeping people safe. We have 500 fewer cops today in Phoenix than 10 years ago.
Yeah. And there are areas where you
problem.
really need to double up officers, probably.
I got to tell you, there are 120 beats in the city. Every neighborhood belongs to a beat. To get to staffing levels of 10 years ago, your area deserves 4 more cops.
Let me talk to you about fire, because this is another big driver. We're talking about pensions and benefits here. Analysis shows that fire is understaffed. But what we're seeing is that 90% of the calls now are for medical. Only 10% are for fires. People may not know this. Do we need more firefighters in this city? And why? I mean, is there a way to try to reconfigure this so that these medical calls are handled in a more efficient manner?
Something that we have to remember, the job of firefighter, hence the name, came from people who just fought fires. Today, you mentioned more than 90% of the calls are medical related. As a special ops firefighter, I will tell you that it's not just medical emergencies and fire emergencies. It's your technical rescue. I do mountain rescues, swift water rescues. Today's threats and the threats of the future that we don't even know about. So it's one of those things, because we don't know exactly when a fire will break out or when a threat will show itself. We have to be prepared for those things.
Quickly, light rail expansion. Phoenix voters, where are you on the South Phoenix expansion?
Prop 104 passed. As we speak, for those of us who live in Phoenix, we are being taxed for that. So the only way for that to go the other way is if this goes to the ballot and it passes. But today,
you and Kate both supported, right?
We both supported Prop 104. Now, I've been open to continuing to get out there and have conversations in the community. This is in Ms. Gallego's council district, or former council district. And there's a reason there are hundreds and hundreds of people coming out.
15 seconds, Danny. What do voters get with Danny Valenzuela as a mayor?
They will have a mayor who's committed their life to keeping people safe first and foremost. We will put public safety #1. I'll continue to move our economy forward, and I'll continue to invest in our children.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it. Best of luck, and we wish Kate would have been part of this. Good luck.
Thank you,
Danny. Back on Newsmaker Saturday, you tend to think that when you're flying that it's the pilot and the crew getting you there safely, but there's a whole nother level that is critical, the air traffic controllers. About 12,000 of them in the United States, helping the planes land safely and get to their destination safely. And we're joined by Brian Fox. He's an air traffic controller in the Phoenix Tower. He's been in there, I think, 5 years, and you've been in the field now a total of 9 years, correct?
That's correct.
During this government shutdown, and we had a threat of a second government shutdown, that crisis averted. But in that first government shutdown, it seemed that what maybe kind of pushed the needle and ended it was when we started seeing delays at LaGuardia and in Washington. We started seeing some backups, and it seemed to stem from the Jacksonville Traffic Control Center, the Washington Traffic Control Center. It started to really, it seems, get the president's attention.
The system is inherently safe, and we've been, that was one of our primary focuses as we were getting further and further into the shutdown is, it adds pressure to the system that's already, it's already under stress because we're a 30-year low of air traffic controllers in the system.
And that's because people are retiring?
And that's because of retirements, and the hiring process has been challenged through various funding. Every time we do a continuing resolution and all these things that have been going on for a very long time, there's been challenges in continuously hiring and filling those spots.
How do you then, Brian, keep things somewhat calm in the tower when you've got all this other stuff swirling around? I mean, it's a high-pressure job to begin with. Then you've got other uncertainties that pile on top of it.
No, I'm very proud that we're all a very professional workforce, and we understand the seriousness of what we do, and overall we're very, very good at focusing on the task at hand, and we want to make sure that from gate to gate you're safe and the system is not compromised.
How many people are up there usually on a shift?
There's usually 8 people per shift in the tower, and then another about 10 to 15 in the radar approach control, which is down on the first floor.
We tend to think that you guys are up there, sweat pouring from your face, your hand to your eyes. It's just crisis every moment. And I'm sure reality isn't that, right?
No, there's certainly stressful moments. It's a stressful job, because we don't have an opportunity for errors. Errors can be extremely costly in our business. But we take it in stride. It's part of the job. So we all very much enjoy what we do. So that helps a lot with that kind of a thing. It pays
really well. You guys are 6-figure guys, right?
It depends. In Phoenix Tower, that's pretty common. There's facilities and plenty of them that aren't there. It depends on many factors.
Since you've been around this now 9 years, what makes a good controller? What are the qualities that you've seen where you go, okay, that guy or that woman has got it?
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of just the willingness to do the job. It's a lot of a mental game of being able to we're essentially problem solvers, instantaneous problem solvers. So someone that's good at that kind of thing would be a really good candidate for it.
And burnout rate high?
We have a good system right now, but as we dwindle in numbers, fewer controllers to help relieve the load and things like that are, it's going to add to the burnout rate.
Well, the bottom line is it is a great career, obviously, a very lucrative career potentially, and there are openings that are coming because you're at a real low right now, a 30-year low. Right?
Yes, it's a fantastic job. It's fun. There is an element of stress that everyone talks about all the time. But it's got a lot of good sides, and in my opinion, the good sides definitely far outweigh the negatives too.
Well, Brian Fox, Air Traffic Control, let me be one of the ones to thank you for what you do, and we all appreciate it.
I appreciate
it. Even if they don't tell you when they get off the flight and at the gate. Brian Fox, and we're back in a minute on Newsmaker Saturday. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Back on Newsmaker Saturday, and we are saying goodbye here at Fox 10 to one of our stalwarts, a guy who's been with the station for 34 years. I can tell you, one of the kindest, brightest, most insightful people I have ever met. Steve Krafft joins us on Newsmaker Saturday. You are retiring after 34 years.
That's right, and
congratulations.
Thank you for the kind introduction.
I meant every word of it.
I really appreciate it, honestly. Yeah, it's been a long time. It has been a long time, but then again, I never paid attention to how long I was here. I just looked basically at trying to do a story every day and to tell that story well, and every single day I had a little bit of nervousness when I sat down to put the story together, a little creative tension, I never, ever took a single one for granted, like, oh, that's a piece of cake.
You can bang it out.
Right. I always felt like I needed to finesse it. I needed to struggle with it a little bit. I needed to mold it and shape it. It's like you're putting something together, a little movie every day for people.
Yeah, it is.
And a little true slice of life film.
Well, you did it exceptionally well. I'd love to show a clip of Steve. You may not know this. I mean, Steve, well, first of all, Steve and I worked together. We were side by side at these crazy debates.
Yep.
Washington University, St. Louis.
No, brother, look at that.
Wow, this is Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump.
Well, this isn't literally Hillary Clinton.
No,
but this is actually you and me.
You know, this day when we were together was the day that the Access Hollywood tape came out. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was a real bombshell.
It was a bombshell, yeah.
But I'm just looking at that beautiful background of the arch, the Gateway Arch in St. Louis.
We've gotten to do some fun stuff together,
Yeah, we
but
have.
And I
great.
loved every minute of it. But I want to show you some of the stuff that Steve did throughout his career. He traveled to East Berlin and to the Berlin Wall. Oh, this is when you were doing your art project.
This was a parody.
Look at that guy.
I thought I would just bend a coat hanger and try to sell it for $1,000 at the Tempe Art Fair.
This is the kind of stuff you would come up with and continually come up with.
I was working with found materials. and this was a commentary on our consumerist culture, the disposability of our lives.
And that if you could believe it yourself, that this piece of work was worth some money, you could make other people believe it.
Yeah, and that
it's
in
kind of
itself
that herd mentality.
It was a piece of performance art. and actually, no, I respect modern art people a lot. But for a layperson like me to try to do that, it was interesting to me that people at home and people who were at the art fair saw right through it immediately. They were like, I don't think so.
Really?
So what makes...
So you didn't fool anybody?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So when you see like a white canvas with a little tiny black dot in it and it's worth $30 million, how does that happen? What does that mean? That was what I was grappling with.
So there's more to it than we think.
Yeah,
Let's show you in East Berlin and West Berlin. This is right after the fall of the wall, and much of the wall still stood at that time.
Right.
That was 89.
89.
89, okay.
1989. The wall, they had just announced that it was going to come down. This station, to me, it's eternal credit, sent me there for a week and a half. Imagine. And this was a Christmas festival in West Berlin. We compared Christmas festivals in West Berlin to East Berlin. And it was amazing how little they had in East Berlin and how much they had in West Berlin.
What was the takeaway from that entire journey?
Well, there were, at that time, two incredibly different Germanys that they would have to try to knit together. And even today in Germany, just like in America, where there are some parts of the country that are prospering and other parts that are lagging behind, it's like that. It's still in former East Germany.
Is there a parallel as we watch this summit unfold with Kim Jong-un, North and South Korea? South Korea has absolutely flourished.
Yes, it has. I mean, it is a prosperous Western-style democracy and technologically first-rate in every way and very advanced. And they export to the world and they make all kinds of great products. And North Vietnam, I shouldn't say that. North Korea has none of that. Nothing at all. So that's a much tougher nut to crack.
Yeah.
Wow.
Steve, what in the time that you've been doing this, you've seen journalism change.
Yes.
One of the things that I've noticed in the past several years is just the bias, the opinion creeping into our news coverage. Does it trouble you?
Yeah, it does. I think people have a hunger to just have someone tell them a straight story. The people are smart enough to put their own spin on it ultimately. Now, we do have to explain things in context. We are allowed to explain events. That's what we do here. And so that might anger people a little bit, but if it does, that's the way it goes. I mean, that's journalism.
Thought-provoking.
You're going to do that. But if you start with a bias and all you do is exploit that bias all the time, that is ultimately, I think, unsatisfying for viewers and turns people off. If you want to hear arguments, you can get that on cable all the time. You can have people arguing with each other all the time. And to me, the phrase I'm always struggling with is not so much heat and a little more light. That's kind of.
And you say that a lot. I think that means a lot to you.
Yep.
We're getting into some of the political here because it's a political show after all, but why did you decide after 34 years to say, okay, enough? And I was surprised you didn't get to the 35 mark. Everybody likes to kind of hit that little marker.
As we said, Walter Payton's number is 34. I'm a big Bears fan.
And you grew up in Chicago.
Yeah, and a big fan of sweetness. So
it's
there
a
you
perfect
go.
number.
Yeah.
Steve went to Brown University, a very, very prestigious university, obviously, an Ivy League school. Coming into this in Phoenix, how did you even end up here?
Well, the first thing, I really do believe that, you know, going to a school like that was great for me, and I was around a lot of very formidable people, and so that was really a great experience. But I think you can, some of the best experiences I've had as a student have been at Rio Salado Community College, and I taught at Mesa Community College for a year while I was working here. So if you're really a motivated student, you can go anywhere at all or online and get a fabulous education.
I believe that.
So I've really learned that over all these years. But how did I come to Phoenix? I'd been practicing law, and I got into television in Chicago as a behind-the-scenes person. I went to the public library, the Chicago Public Library, got broadcasting magazines out, opened them to the back to the want ads, and I applied, you know, Mobile, Alabama, Madison, Wisconsin. Oh, I thought that'd be cool. That's pretty close to home. I'll try that. Baltimore, Maryland, Phoenix, Arizona, you know, and I landed here, and to my astonishment, and I'd never really been in the West, and it seemed really, really strange to me for a very long time, because the week before I came out here in '85, it had been 26 degrees below zero. They'd had like a polar vortex thing, and it was unbelievable. I came here wearing this super heavy coat. I don't know what I was thinking. I got off the plane, it was 88 degrees. And I was just...
Did you fall in love with it, or did it take a while?
I'd lived right downtown among skyscrapers, and I'd worked really high up in a 100-story building and all that sort of thing. And I didn't have a car for 5 years, and I really lived an intensely urban life. So it took me a while to appreciate Phoenix. But, you know, life goes on, you get married, you have kids, and it turns out that, and I think a lot of people agree, maybe you do too, that it's a really good place to raise
no doubt. I love
a family.
it.
And I love that about it, that it's a place that, you know, every place is expensive in its own way, but this is a lot more reasonable than a lot of places people live around the country. And if we lived in California or in Chicagoland, it's tough.
Right.
And this is
it's
a place...
tougher life.
Yeah, this is a easy, relaxed place to live with a lot of cool people. And I think, I'm an optimist by nature, and I think Phoenix is getting better in the Valley and all the surrounding cities, and Arizona generally, improving every single year.
I agree
more
with that.
sophisticated, more things to do, more diversity, more interesting people coming into the state all the time, more dynamic place. So I'm a fan of it.
Final moments here. Your greatest, you know, your greatest appreciation of this 34 years, what are you most thankful about of what's happened to you? You had a great career here.
I'm grateful that I've had a place to come to every day, because I don't take it for granted. I think anyone who works in television is really lucky to be there in the first place. Statistically, there are hundreds of people who could do my job as well as I do it. Seriously. And I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to be here and have a place to come to work every day. I love the people in this newsroom. They're great. We all say that to each other, but it's true. Alone among newsrooms really around the country, this is a stable place with a lot of fun and cool people. It comes through on the air when I watch you guys. I mean, it's just a very welcoming place to work. And a lot of smart, creative people here. So that's been a joy to me. And I've been very fortunate to be in one place that much time.
Yeah.
So our management's been very stable. They've left me alone. They've let me do my thing for a long time. And when you step back and you look at how tumultuous the business is, if you've been able to have smooth sailing as I have, you have to count yourself lucky.
Well, I agree with everything you said, except that there are hundreds of people who could do what you do, because that I disagree with.
Well,
and we're going to miss you, man.
Appreciate that a lot.
Really, really thank you for everything you've done, and we've all learned and become better because of you.
Thank you.
Steve Krafft on Newsmaker Saturday. We're going to miss you, buddy.
Thanks, man.